They thought cutting my contract was just another Tuesday morning decision, another name crossed off the payroll. But when their analytics dashboard flatlined and their entire $15 million ad campaign turned to digital ash in 48 hours, they finally understood the person they'd just fired was the only one who knew how to keep their advertising machine breathing. As panicked calls flooded my phone at 3:30 a.m., I sat in my Chicago apartment, sipping cold brew and smiling. Because they were about to learn what this industry rarely forgives: never underestimate the person behind the numbers. My name is Rachel Monroe, and for 6 years, I was the invisible backbone of Brightwave Media Solutions, one of Chicago's most aggressive digital advertising agencies. At 34, I'd built something most people in this industry couldn't even comprehend: a real-time analytics system that could predict consumer behavior, detect click fraud before it drained budgets, and optimize bidding strategies across 17 different platforms simultaneously. I wasn't just good at my job, I was the job. The 20th floor of our Willis Tower office was a pressure cooker, where million-dollar decisions happened between sips of overpriced cold brew. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., I'd arrive before the account managers, before the creative directors, before even the security guard finished his second cup. My 3-monitor setup would light up like a command center, streams of data flowing across screens in patterns only I could fully interpret. This wasn't just numbers to me, it was a living, breathing ecosystem I'd nurtured from nothing. Brightwave handled Fortune 500 accounts exclusively. We're talking pharmaceutical giants, automotive manufacturers, tech unicorns, clients who wouldn't blink at dropping $15 million on a summer campaign, but would eviscerate you if the ROI dipped below 20%. The margins for error were non-existent. One miscalculated bid, one undetected bot farm, one poorly optimized audience segment, and you'd watch millions evaporate into the digital void. I remember the early days, back in 2018, when the agency was hemorrhaging money on fraudulent clicks. The previous analytics team, if you could even call 3 Excel jockeys a team, had no idea that 40% of our traffic was coming from click farms in Southeast Asia. I built the first fraud detection algorithm on my own time, working until 2 a.m. for 3 months straight. When I finally presented it to the board and showed them we were losing $800,000 monthly to fraud, they gave me carte blanche to rebuild everything. That's exactly what I did. Every API connection, every data pipeline, every predictive model, I architected it all. The system could process 7 million data points per second, adjusting bids in real time based on weather patterns, social media sentiment, stock market fluctuations, even sports scores. It was beautiful in its complexity, elegant in its efficiency. Our client retention rate jumped from 60 to 92%. Campaign performance improved by an average of 35% across the board. But here's the thing about being indispensable in corporate America: nobody wants to admit you're indispensable. The account executives took credit for the improved numbers. The creative team claimed their messaging was the difference maker. Even the CFO, who couldn't explain what programmatic advertising meant if his stock options depended on it, would proudly present our proprietary optimization technology to prospective clients. I didn't mind the invisibility, not really. My salary had climbed to $170,000, plus bonuses tied to campaign performance. I had my team of 5 brilliant data scientists who understood what we'd built together. We were the wizards behind the curtain, and that was enough. Or at least, it was enough until the new marketing director arrived and decided wizards were obsolete. The irony wasn't lost on me that in an industry built on visibility and recognition, I'd made myself successful by remaining unseen. Every triumphant campaign presentation, every celebrated creative breakthrough, every record-breaking quarter, they all ran on the infrastructure I'd built. But infrastructure is only appreciated when it fails. And I was about to show them exactly what that failure looked like. Damian Cross walked into Brightwave on a Monday morning in March like he owned the place, which, in his mind, he already did. 29 years old, with slicked-back hair and a Tom Ford suit that screamed trying too hard. He was everything wrong with modern corporate leadership wrapped in a Stanford MBA package. The board had poached him from some failed media startup called Nexus Digital, where he'd apparently revolutionized content distribution before it went belly up with $12 million in venture capital debt. I first saw him during the all-hands meeting at 9 a.m., where our CEO introduced him as our new visionary marketing director who would propel Brightwave into the future of advertising. Damien took the podium with the confidence of someone who'd never been truly wrong about anything. His presentation was 40 slides of buzzword bingo AI-driven everything, blockchain-verified impressions, metaverse-ready campaigns. Not once did he mention actual metrics, ROI, or client retention, the things that actually mattered. "The age of manual optimization is dead," he declared, clicking to a slide showing a graveyard of old computer monitors. "We're partnering with Advantage Pro, a cutting-edge programmatic platform that will completely automate our media buying. No more spreadsheets, no more complex internal systems that only a few people understand." His eyes found me in the crowd. No more gatekeepers to innovation. My team exchanged nervous glances. Advantage Pro was notorious in our industry, a flashy platform that promised the moon but delivered space junk. Their idea of AI optimization was basic A/B testing with a fancy dashboard. I'd evaluated them 2 years ago and found their fraud detection was 3 generations behind what I'd built. But they offered hefty kickbacks to decision makers, something everyone knew but nobody discussed. The first department meeting under Damien's leadership happened that Thursday at 2 p.m. He'd redecorated the conference room with motivational posters and a ping-pong table, because apparently that's what innovative companies did. He spent the first 20 minutes talking about his vision before finally asking for introductions. When my turn came, I explained our current system's capabilities, the fraud detection saving us millions, the predictive modeling that outperformed industry standards by 40%, the real-time optimization that had won us 3 major accounts just last quarter. Damien listened with the glazed expression of someone waiting for their turn to talk. "That's impressive, Rebecca." "Rachel." "Right, Rachel. But here's the thing, complexity is the enemy of scale. Your system sounds like a beautiful classic car, but we need a Tesla. Advantage Pro has machine learning that makes all these manual processes obsolete." "It's not manual," I corrected. "The system is fully automated. I built the automation myself, and machine learning is only as good as the data it's trained on. Advantage Pro's training data is extensive and industry-leading," he interrupted. "I've seen their results at Nexus. 60% improvement in CTR across the board." I wanted to laugh. 60% improvement in click-through rate meant nothing if those clicks were bots, which they usually were with Advantage Pro. But I could see it in his eyes he wasn't interested in facts. He was interested in his narrative, his revolution, his kickback disguised as innovation. Over the next 2 weeks, Damien held individual meetings with everyone on my team. He'd probe about our system's vulnerabilities, asking for documentation, passwords, architectural diagrams. He framed it as knowledge sharing and breaking down silos, but we all knew what it really was: reconnaissance. Sarah, my lead engineer, came to my office after her session, close to tears. He called our fraud detection algorithm quaint and said real innovation means trusting partners, not building walls. Then he asked if I'd be interested in leading the Advantage Pro integration. "What did you say?" "That I'd need to discuss it with you first." He said that wouldn't be necessary much longer. The writing wasn't just on the wall, Damien was spray painting it in neon colors. He was building his case to eliminate our entire department, replace years of custom development with an off-the-shelf solution that would crater our performance but make him look like a cost-cutting genius, at least until the campaigns failed. But by then, he'd have moved on to his next victim, resume padded with another successful digital transformation. I started documenting everything, every dismissive comment, every request for sensitive system information, every meeting where he ignored data in favor of his predetermined conclusions. Because if Damien Cross wanted a war, he was about to learn why you don't attack someone who controls all your ammunition. The purge started on a Tuesday. Marcus Williams, our behavioral prediction specialist with 8 years at Brightwave, was gone by lunch. No warning, no transition period, just a security escort and a cardboard box. Marcus had built our user sentiment analysis tool that could predict viral content 72 hours before it peaked. His replacement, a 24-year-old from Damien's old startup, whose LinkedIn listed growth hacking as his primary skill. By Friday, 3 more were gone. Jennifer from Fraud Prevention, who'd saved us from a $2 million bot attack just last month. David, our bidding algorithm engineer who'd optimized our programmatic buying to outperform Google's own tools, Lisa, who managed our client data pipelines and knew every API endpoint by heart, each one replaced by Damien's loyalist kids fresh out of college or burnouts from Nexus Digital who spoke in TED Talk soundbites but couldn't write a SQL query if their stock options depended on it. I watched it happen from my office, documenting every departure, every lost capability, every critical system component that was now managed by someone who didn't understand it. The smart ones saw the pattern and started job hunting. Sarah had 3 interviews lined up. Even Tom, our junior analyst who'd only been with us 6 months, was updating his resume. Damien called me into his office on a Wednesday afternoon at 3:45 p.m. His desk was covered with printouts of our system architecture, marked up with red ink like a bad term paper. "Rachel, I've been reviewing your documentation. This system you've built, it's impressive, really, but it's also a liability. A liability that saved us $12 million in fraud last year alone." He waved his hand dismissively. "That's the old way of thinking. Advantage Pro has partnerships with all major platforms. They handle fraud at the source. We don't need redundant systems." "It's not redundant if theirs doesn't work. Their fraud detection is based on IP blacklists from 2019. Bot farms rotate IPs every—" "See, this is exactly the problem," he interrupted, leaning back in his ergonomic chair. "You're too deep in the weeds. Leadership means seeing the forest, not cataloging every tree. I need you to start documenting all your processes for the transition. Full documentation code, passwords, admin access, everything. That'll take months to do properly. The system has over 2 million lines of custom code." "Then you better get started. I want preliminary documentation by end of week." I knew what this was. He wanted just enough information to keep the lights on after he fired me. Get the passwords, get the basic workflows, then cut loose the expensive expert and let his bargain basement team figure out the rest. "Of course," I said, matching his fake smile. "I'll need written authorization for that level of access transfer, for security compliance." His jaw tightened. "Just get it done, Rachel." That night, I stayed until 11 p.m., but not to write documentation. I was reviewing every contract, every security protocol, every administrative hierarchy I'd established over 6 years. Brightwave's system had layers of authentication that I'd insisted on after a competitor got hacked and lost client data. I was the primary administrator on 17 critical systems. The beauty of good security is that it protects against all threats, external hackers and internal idiots alike. I also pulled up the Advantage Pro integration documentation. Buried on page 97 was the detail Damien had either missed or ignored. Their system required continuous data feeds from existing analytics infrastructure to function. Without those feeds, it would default to basic demographic targeting, essentially throwing money at random audiences and hoping something stuck. Thursday's department meeting was a masterclass in corporate gaslighting. Damien presented the optimization roadmap, which was really just a timeline for dismantling everything we'd built. He'd even created a slide titled Simplification Heroes, featuring the new hires, while those of us still remaining were listed under legacy support. By Q3, he announced, we'll be fully integrated with Advantage Pro. Our efficiency will increase by 40%, and we'll be able to reduce operational overhead significantly. "What about the global pharma campaign?" I asked. "They specifically chose us because of our fraud prevention capabilities." "Advantage Pro has that covered. Their CEO assured me personally." I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. The CEO of Advantage Pro was currently under investigation by the FTC for misleading advertising claims. But Damien didn't care about facts. He cared about his narrative, his bonus, and what I was increasingly certain was a hefty kickback from the Advantage Pro deal. After the meeting, I found a sticky note on my monitor. "Start transition documentation immediately. Focus on mission-critical systems first. DC." I smiled, sat down, and began typing. Oh, I'd give him documentation all right. Every warning, every risk assessment, every predicted failure point. I'd create such a comprehensive record of impending disaster that when everything crashed, and it would crash, there'd be no question about who was responsible. The countdown had begun. Damien thought he was conducting an orderly transition. What he was really doing was assembling his own digital guillotine. The global pharma meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Thursday that would become my last day at Brightwave. Their team flew in from New York specifically for this quarterly review, $15 million for their summer campaign promoting a new diabetes medication. This wasn't just any campaign. It was targeting vulnerable populations who desperately needed accurate information, not clickbait served to bots. I'd spent the previous night analyzing our metrics and discovered something horrifying. Damien had already started optimizing our fraud filters without telling anyone. He'd disabled what he called overly restrictive parameters that were actually blocking suspicious traffic from known click farms. In just 3 days, we'd wasted $87,000 on fraudulent clicks. The campaign hadn't even officially launched yet. The conference room was packed. Global Pharma had brought their CMO, their head of digital strategy, and their notoriously ruthless procurement director. Our side had Damien, myself, 2 account executives, and Damien's new head of innovation, a 26-year-old whose main qualifications seemed to be agreeing with everything Damien said. I presented first, showing the real numbers, clean data, verified impressions, actual human engagement metrics. Our proprietary system had identified optimal placement strategies that would reach genuine patients and healthcare providers, not just random clicks from bot farms in Bangladesh. Then Damien stood up. While Rachel's analysis is thorough, I think we're missing the bigger picture. By opening up our targeting parameters, we can achieve much greater reach. You mean by disabling fraud protection, I said, pulling up the data on my laptop. In the past 72 hours, our unfiltered traffic has shown a 400% increase in clicks from IP addresses associated with known click farms. That's not reach, that's robbery. The Global Pharma CMO leaned forward. Can you explain what you mean by unfiltered traffic? Before I could answer, Damien cut in. It's a difference in philosophy. Rachel believes in restrictive targeting. I believe in growth-oriented strategies. Advantage Pro's AI can optimize for genuine engagement without arbitrary restrictions. Arbitrary. I stood up, my hands shaking with controlled rage. These aren't arbitrary. These are documented fraud patterns. Look at this. I connected my laptop to the main screen, showing a real-time traffic analysis. See these clusters? That's 17,000 clicks in the past hour, all from the same server farm in Vietnam, all clicking at exact 3-second intervals. That's not human behavior. That's a bot script. And it's billing us $7 per click. The procurement director's face went pale. $7 per fraudulent click. Currently, yes, and Mr. Cross's growth-oriented strategy has removed all the safeguards preventing this. Damien's face turned red. This is exactly the kind of fear-mongering that holds companies back. Rachel is stuck in the past, obsessed with problems that modern platforms solve automatically. Then explain this, I said, pulling up Advantage Pro's own dashboard. Your revolutionary platform is currently bidding on keywords in Mandarin for a campaign targeting English-speaking diabetes patients in the Midwest. It's showing ads for prescription medication on gaming sites frequented by children. It's burning through budget at 6 times the planned rate with zero qualified conversions. The room went silent. The Global Pharma CMO looked between us, then focused on Damien. Is this true? It's a temporary optimization phase. The AI needs time to learn. The AI, I said slowly, is doing exactly what it's programmed to do, maximize clicks without regard for quality, because that's how Advantage Pro makes money. They get a percentage of spend, not performance. The procurement director pulled out his phone. I'm calling legal, if we're being billed for fraudulent traffic. There's no fraud, Damien interrupted desperately. Rachel is misinterpreting the data. She's resistant to change, trying to protect her job by spreading panic. That's when I lost it. 6 years of building, protecting, and optimizing, and this charlatan was destroying it all for a kickback. You want to know what's really happening? I said, my voice deadly calm. Mr. Cross has a signed agreement with Advantage Pro that pays him personally a 2% commission on all platform spending. It's disguised as a consulting fee to his LLC, but it's a kickback. That's why he's pushing this integration despite every piece of data showing it's a disaster. The room exploded. the global pharma team demanded to see contracts. Our CEO, who'd been silent until now, asked Damien directly about the LLC. Damien tried to deflect, to blame me for corporate sabotage. But I had receipts, literally, screenshots of his emails to Advantage Pro, the LLC registration, even his Slack messages to his team about maximizing platform adoption for mutual benefit. The meeting ended with Global Pharma threatening to pull their entire account. The CEO told us both to leave the room. An hour later, I was in HR, being told I was terminated for undermining leadership and creating a hostile work environment, 2-week severance, sign an NDA, don't let the door hit you on the way out. As I packed my desk, Damien stopped by, his smile sharp as glass. You should have just played along, Rachel. Now you're out, and the integration continues anyway. I looked at him, this small man in his expensive suit, and smiled back. You're right, the integration will continue. Good luck with that. He didn't understand my smile. He would, though, in about 48 hours, he'd understand perfectly. The security guard watched me pack with sympathy in his eyes. Everyone knew what had happened. Corporate executions were never really private. I took my time, methodically removing 6 years of accumulated knowledge from my desk while my mind worked through the final preparations. Before the meeting, I'd spent 3 days documenting every system vulnerability created by Damien's changes. But documentation wasn't enough. I needed to ensure that when the inevitable collapse came, it couldn't be blamed on my sabotage or negligence. Everything had to be completely legal, completely traceable, and completely Damien's fault. Our analytics infrastructure was like a symphony orchestra, dozens of instruments playing in harmony, each relying on the others for timing and tone. The core authentication system I'd built was the conductor. It had 3 modes: full optimization, which required primary admin verification, standard operation, basic functionality with automated safeguards, and safe mode, minimal functionality, maximum security. I'd implemented this after a ransomware attack hit one of our competitors in 2021. As I packed, I remotely accessed the system one last time from my phone, completely legal, as my admin credentials wouldn't be revoked until midnight per company policy. I didn't delete anything, didn't corrupt any files, didn't plant any malicious code. I simply switched every system I'd built from full optimization to safe mode, with a note in the log: security protocol activated due to unauthorized changes to fraud prevention parameters. Primary admin verification required for optimization restore. This was standard procedure, documented in the security manual I'd written and the board had approved. When major unauthorized changes were detected, the system would protect itself and the company's assets by restricting functionality until properly verified. It was designed to prevent exactly what Damien was doing, recklessly dismantling security features without understanding the consequences. The beautiful part: Damien's team had been so eager to remove me from the equation that they'd already changed the primary admin credentials on several peripheral systems. But they didn't realize those systems were now orphaned. They could no longer communicate with the core infrastructure because the authentication chains were broken. It was like changing the locks on your house but forgetting that your smart home system, security cameras, and automatic lights all needed the old key to function. Sarah caught me in the parking garage. Rachel, this is insane. You built everything. How are they going to? They'll figure it out, I said, loading the last box into my car. Damien assured everyone that Advantage Pro can handle everything automatically. Remember, but the data feeds are all documented: every API endpoint, every authentication protocol, every optimization algorithm. It's all in the system documentation. If they can't follow their own security procedures to restore access, that's not my problem. She stared at me, understanding dawning on her face. You didn't break anything. Of course not. That would be illegal and unprofessional. I simply ensured all systems were in their most secure state before my departure, as required by my employment contract and fiduciary duty to protect company assets. That evening, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine and my laptop, watching the system dashboards I still had read only access to another oversight in their rush to remove me. The campaign metrics were holding steady for now, running on cached data and predetermined bidding strategies, but I could see the warning signs appearing like cracks in a dam. The Advantage Pro integration was polling for data every 30 seconds, expecting real-time feeds from our fraud detection system. Instead, it was getting safe mode responses, basic demographic data only. No behavioral predictions, no fraud scoring, no optimization recommendations. It was like trying to perform surgery with oven mitts on. By 11:30 p.m., the first errors appeared in the logs. Advantage Pro's AI, lacking proper data inputs, was defaulting to its base programming maximize reach at any cost, without our fraud detection feeds telling it which traffic sources to avoid. It was like a blind person with a credit card in a casino. I pulled up my documentation folder, every email where I'd warned about these vulnerabilities, every meeting minute where Damien had overruled security protocols, every message where he'd explicitly instructed me to disable safeguards. I also had the security manual, board-approved and legally binding, which stated that any major system changes required written authorization from both the primary system administrator and the chief technology officer. Damien had neither. My phone buzzed with a text from Tom, my former junior analyst. Systems are acting weird. Everything's running but super slow. New team is freaking out. Tell them to check the security logs, I replied. Everything should be documented there. Another text, this time from Sarah. They're trying to restore optimization mode but can't figure out the authentication chain. Damien's screaming at everyone. I smiled, closed my laptop, and went to bed. The timer on the bomb wasn't ticking, it had already gone off. They just didn't know it yet. In approximately 24 hours, when the cache data expired and the real-time bidding systems needed fresh intelligence, they'd discover what happens when you fire the person who built your entire infrastructure and assume a third-party AI could just figure it out. The best part. Everything I'd done was not only legal, but required by the security protocols they'd approved. I'd protected the company's assets by putting them in safe mode before departing. If they couldn't figure out how to restore normal operations, well, that was a staffing and knowledge transfer issue. Damien wanted to play corporate politics. He was about to learn that in the digital age, the person who controls the technology controls everything. Sunday morning at 8:45 a.m., Damien called me directly. I let it ring through to voicemail twice before finally answering on his third attempt. Rachel, thank God. We need you to come in immediately. I don't work for Brightwave anymore. Remember you made sure of that. Look, we can discuss reinstatement later. Right now, we need the systems restored. The campaigns are experiencing issues. Issues. I laughed. Damien, according to my dashboard, which I still have read-only access to, by the way, you've burned through $11 million of Global Pharma's budget on bot traffic and porn sites. That's not an issue. It's a catastrophe. You sabotaged us. You locked the systems before leaving. I secured them according to protocol. There's a difference. Every action I took is logged and compliant with the security manual your board approved. His voice cracked with desperation. What do you want? Money, your job back. Name it. I want nothing from you, but since you asked, my consulting rate is $1,500 per hour, minimum 40 hours, paid up front. That's $60,000. That's a bargain compared to what you're losing every minute this conversation continues. Global Pharma's campaign is currently spending $18,000 per minute on traffic from a bot farm in Romania. Silence, then. I need to get approval. You do that? Oh, and Damien, even if you hire me, it'll take at least 12 hours to properly restore all systems. Should have thought about that before firing everyone who understood them. He hung up. 20 minutes later, Harrison, the CEO, called personally. Rachel, I've just come out of an emergency board meeting. We're prepared to offer you a consulting contract to resolve this situation. My terms are non-negotiable. $60,000 up front. Plus I want a written statement that my termination was without cause. Done. How quickly can you fix this? I can stop the bleeding in about 2 hours. Full restoration will take 12 to 16 hours. But Harrison, you need to understand something. This isn't just about technical fixes. Your entire global pharma campaign needs to be rebuilt from scratch. The damage to your reputation. We'll deal with that later. Can you be here in an hour? I'll be there in 2. I need to review some documentation first. What I didn't tell him was that I'd be spending those 2 hours collecting every email, Slack message, and document that proved Damien had caused this disaster. My lawyer. Yes, I'd hired one Saturday afternoon, had advised me to protect myself against any attempts to shift blame. I arrived at Brightwave at 11 a.m. to find the office in chaos. The usually pristine 20th floor looked like a war room. Pizza boxes everywhere, energy drink cans covering desks, and exhausted employees staring at screens showing nothing but red metrics. Damien stood when I entered, his Tom Ford suit replaced with a wrinkled polo shirt. His eyes were bloodshot, his perfect hair disheveled. "Rachel, thank you for—" "Save it. I'm not here for you. I'm here because other people's jobs are at stake." I turned to the technical team, what was left of it. "Everyone stop what you're doing. You're making it worse." I sat at my old desk, pulled out my laptop, and began the restoration sequence. First, I had to stop the hemorrhaging. I accessed the campaign management platform and paused everything. Every campaign, every ad, every bidding strategy. The sudden silence in the dashboard was deafening. "You just stopped all our campaigns," Damien protested. "Yes, because they're all compromised. Would you rather lose the remaining $4 million? Harrison stepped forward. "Let her work." The next 2 hours were surgical. I restored the authentication chains one by one, carefully re-establishing the connections between our fraud prevention systems and the bidding platforms. As each system came back online, I could see the real damage. It wasn't just money lost, our quality scores with every major platform had plummeted. Google had flagged us as a potential bad actor. Facebook had suspended our ad account pending review. At 1:15 p.m., I pulled Harrison and the head of legal aside. "You need to see this," I said, showing them the logs. Damien manually disabled fraud prevention on Thursday at 2:47 p.m. Here's his login, his IP address, his authorization code. He also signed a contract with Advantage Pro that pays him personally for platform spending. That's why he pushed this integration despite every warning. The head of legal's face went white. This is criminal negligence, possibly fraud." Harrison looked at Damien, who was trying to peer over our shoulders. "Damien, please wait in the conference room. HR will be with you shortly." "But I'm the marketing director. This is my department." "Not anymore," Harrison said quietly. As security escorted Damien out, he turned to me with pure hatred in his eyes. "You planned this. You set me up." "No, Damien. You planned this when you decided to destroy something you didn't understand for a 2% kickback. I just made sure there was a record of it." The rest of Sunday was damage control. I managed to restore most systems by evening, but the global pharma campaign was unsalvageable. $12 million gone, their compliance violated, their trust shattered. They pulled their entire account that night, and their lawyers filed suit Monday morning against Damien personally and Brightwave corporately. But I documented everything so thoroughly that Brightwave's legal team could prove Damien had acted against explicit warnings and established protocols. The lawsuit would focus on him, not the company, his LLC, his kickback scheme, his negligence, all exposed in court documents that would become public record. His career in advertising was over. No agency would touch someone who'd burned $12 million in a weekend for personal gain. Last I heard, he was selling real estate in Florida. His LinkedIn profile scrubbed of any mention of Brightwave or revolutionary marketing transformation. Monday morning at 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into the boardroom wearing my best suit, the one I'd saved for client presentations that really mattered. The entire board was there, along with Harrison, the CTO, head of legal, and a court reporter. The atmosphere was formal, serious, and exactly what I'd expected. Harrison gestured to a chair. "Rachel, thank you for coming. We have a proposal." The chairman of the board, Mr. Yamamoto, spoke first. "Ms. Monroe, your actions over the weekend saved Brightwave from complete catastrophe. While we still lost the global pharma account, your documentation has protected us from the worst of the legal ramifications. We owe you more than just consulting fees." He slid a document across the table. My eyes widened at the title, Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President of Analytics. The position comes with a base salary of $350,000, plus performance bonuses, equity options, and most importantly, complete autonomy over all technical decisions. No marketing director, no matter how senior, can override your security protocols or system architectures. I looked up from the contract. What about my team, the people Damien fired? We've already reached out to Marcus, Jennifer, David, and Lisa. All have agreed to return with 20% salary increases and formal apologies. Sarah has been promoted to lead systems architect. And the public statement. Harrison winced but nodded. We'll issue a press release to Adweek and Marketing Technology today, acknowledging that a former executive's unilateral decisions led to the global pharma incident, and that proper technical leadership has been restored. I pretended to consider it, though I'd already made my decision. I'll need a few additions. First, a $4 million budget to rebuild our fraud prevention systems from the ground up. Second, any future platform integrations require my written approval. Third, I want a direct reporting line to the board, not just the CEO. Done, Mr. Yamamoto said immediately. When can you start? I already have. I spent last night designing a new architecture that will prevent this from ever happening again. But there's one more thing. I pulled out my phone and showed them a screenshot. Damien's Advantage Pro contract had a cancellation clause. If we terminate within 30 days due to material misrepresentation of capabilities, they owe us a refund plus penalties. That's about $2 million. The head of legal actually smiled. I'll file the paperwork this afternoon. By that afternoon, I was back at my desk, my new desk, in the corner office that had been Damien's. I donated his ping-pong table to a startup down the street and replaced his motivational posters with system architecture diagrams. The view of Chicago's skyline reminded me that in this city of towers and ambition, the real power wasn't in the height of your office, but in the depth of your knowledge. Over the next 3 months, we rebuilt everything stronger than before. The fraud prevention system I designed caught the attention of Google's engineering team, who invited me to present at their annual conference. 3 other Fortune 500 companies approached Brightwave specifically because of our technical capabilities. We won back twice the business we'd lost, including a $20 million contract with a pharmaceutical company that had heard about our radical transparency in dealing with the global pharma incident. The industry press had a field day with the story. The 60-hour implosion, how one executive's ego cost millions, became required reading at business schools. Damien tried to sue for defamation, but when court documents revealed his kickback scheme, he quietly dropped the case and disappeared from LinkedIn entirely. 6 months later, at the American Marketing Association's annual gala, I received an unexpected award, Technical Innovation Leader of the Year. In my acceptance speech, I said something that became my professional motto. In the digital age, respect the architects of your success. They're not overhead to be optimized away. They're the foundation everything else is built on. Sarah, now managing a team of 12, found me after the ceremony. You know what the best part is, she said, champagne glass in hand. Every time some hotshot executive joins a company now, the first thing they ask is, who built your systems, and are they happy here? I smiled, thinking about Damien, probably showing split-level homes to retirees in Boca Raton. Good. Maybe the next person will think twice before declaring war on the people who control their digital infrastructure. The truth is, I didn't set out to destroy anyone. I just refused to let someone destroy what I'd built while painting me as the villain. In the end, the numbers told the story better than any words could. $15 million lost in 48 hours versus 6 years of profitable campaigns. The math was never on Damien's side. As I stood on that stage, accepting an award for the very systems Damien had tried to eliminate, I thought about everyone who's ever been dismissed as just technical staff or overhead. We're the ones who keep the lights on, who prevent the disasters, who build the engines of modern business, and sometimes, when pushed too far, we're the ones who show exactly what happens when those engines stop. Never underestimate the person behind the numbers. We're not just watching the dashboard, we built it. We control it, and if necessary, we know exactly how to make it go dark. Thank you all for listening to my story today. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let me know what city or country you're listening from so we can connect. If you enjoyed this tale of corporate justice, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts or similar experiences in the comments. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this in your workplace? Let's discuss.